Recording. So I had the genius idea of putting the wide angle adapter on the Nanomorph 28-55 anamorphic zoom, which I thought it would be mind-blowingly well, incredibly good, which it kind of was in some senses and it kind of wasn't at some senses. And that is actually what I want to talk about today, because I'm going to show you a lot of footage, and I have written some stuff down, putting this wide angle adapter on that nanomorph, which I have both videos on the wide angle adapter and the nanomorph, and I would recommend that you watch them too. After this, maybe I'm gonna give all the info. I'm not gonna hold back on anything, but those videos go into kind of deeper tests with these. So if you want to learn more about them, I would highly suggest that you check those out. But yeah, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. So today's menu will be the how to use this with that, which there are some quirks with it. That's why it's not like how to use it, but there are some quirks, and I'm gonna talk about the quirks. We should just name it the quirks. I'm gonna name it the Quirks. I have then the field of view calculations of this with the nanomorph and with the anamorphic and like normal spherical. We have sharpness, focus fall off, chromatic aberration, flares, distortion, and then I'm gonna wrap it up and finish with my final thoughts. And let's roll. Okay, first quirk is this is the wide angle adapter, which Blaine Westrup has done a video about. Again, I made a video about this. I stole the idea from him. And this is an adapter that goes onto your lens. It has a 58mm filter thread, and some of the problem is going to be coming from this. And it is a 0.35 high definition fisheye lens. It says it's a wide angle adapter, so it widens the field of view by 0.35. So when you put this onto the lens, you are getting a huge blackness, and then you're getting a really like ball, like real fish eye look. The magic happens when you actually zoom in, but there's a little bit of quirk. So because we have so much black space when you put this on, when I start zooming in until about 40mm, 45mm or something, I don't actually see any changes in the field of view, because the view is actually not changing. I'm just zooming into that blackness. So after that, like 45mm up to 55mm, then we are getting a bit more of that compression, a bit more of that field of view change. Now this quirk can actually easily be changed and be completely solved. And I'm using the Sony's own clear image zoom thing on the camera because it zooms like 1.5 times into the image. It kind of is like, because it's a 6K sensor, oversamples from 6K to 4K. And when you zoom in, it is like the actual 4K of the sensor. I believe it's that. But point of it is you are actually zooming into the image. So when you zoom in, even at 28mm, you're nearly getting completely rid of that, nearly completely rid of that whole blackness. And as soon as you push into around 35mm, after that you completely lost that whole blackness. And when you actually zoom in, then you're actually zooming in, like the field of view changes a bit. Kind of feels like that. It's a little quirky in that sense, but it is a very wide angle adapter, like it's wide, so I guess it's to be expected. But can be avoided, or you can do the same thing in post, so you don't have to do it in camera. Just something to consider. Field of view stuff can get a little complicated because there's a lot of math involved because of the nature of anamorphic lenses too, but I'm going to walk over them pretty quickly and I hope it will be understandable. So I'm just gonna again run through the numbers. I know it's not the most sexy topic to talk about, but it is an important thing to talk about. 35mm anamorphic lens would be vertical 35mm, horizontal 24mm, and if we were to add the wide angle adapter, it would be 8.2mm. 45mm would be 30mm without the wide angle adapter, and with the wide angle adapter, 10.5mm. 55mm would be 36.7mm without the adapter, and 12.85mm with the adapter. The reason why I said the results were kind of a mixed bag for me was because of the sharpness, because I've talked about in the first wide angle adapter video that I don't really use this adapter until I push to like 35mm, and after 35mm I don't really use that because it just gets too soft. There's a lot of blooming, there's a lot of chromatic aberration, there's the softness, it's like way too soft for me, and this is the point of that problem comes in for me, because up until like 35mm you are getting okay softness. This point also has a lot to do with the lens's own sharpness too. So nanomorph at wide open at t2.9 is a okay sharp lens. Like sharpness for me is okay, but I know that some people would categorize it as a softer lens, soft looking lens, which I would understand. So at wide open at t2.9, the softness is, after like 35mm, abysmal. Like it's not abysmal. Like okay, then let's not be dramatic. It's not abysmal, but it is not the best softness that you're getting, because it is not the best sharp image that you're getting. If you're going for that kind of a vibe, I think it's totally fitting, but for me, it was a little too soft. If we stop to T4 or T5.6, it does kind of get better. Like, let's be honest, it does kind of get better, but like not by a whole lot where I would say, oh my God, it just like, it's better. Like, oh my God, I would use it. It's not quite like that. And kind of at that point, it loses its magic to me. So sharpness point is a bit of a disappointment in my point of view, but again, I'm just reporting this to you too, and then giving my thoughts. And the fact that like after 35mm to like 55mm, the fact that there's a lot of blooming and there's a lot of chromatic aberration does really not help with softness too, with sharpness too, because it just makes it feel a lot softer than it actually is maybe. So yeah. Focus falloff is pretty great though, because I've praised the focus falloff of this adapter many times. It is very strong. It is a character of its own. So I quite like the focus falloff of the wide angle adapter. Now, again, lens is very important here. The nanomorph, it's on its own, has a very subtle, very gentle focus falloff, which normally I want stronger focus falloff, but again, I've said many a times, I love how gentle the focus falloff of the nanomorph is. So mix these two together, you like really great, really great. From top and bottom, focus falloff is kind of cut off a little bit, but still you're getting like kind of a little bit, and I think it looks very good. And especially at the like left and right edges of the frame, you're getting very beautiful, very strong, but very beautiful focus falloff. And the thing is, it swirls too, so like it kind of like gives this, I don't know, it's very immersive, very nice. So the focus falloff is really nice, really nice. Again, chromatic aberration too has a lot to do with the lens. So nanomorph is not the best when it comes to chromatic aberration control. I quite like the chromatic aberration of the nanomorph, which I talked about at wide open. I find it to be quite pleasing, and I really like that. But I know not a lot of people are a fan of chromatic aberration stuff, but again, it doesn't matter. The wide angle adapter on its own, if you put it on a clean spherical lens or a clean anamorphic lens, whatever, a clean lens, it does create some good chromatic aberrations, especially around the edges. The thing is, the chromatic aberration of this and the lens are different colors. So the lens really gives, the nanomorph really gives that reddish orange hue on the front of the front of the focal plane, and that like green teal-ish hue on the back of the focal plane, a bit more like blue, I guess. But the wide angle adapter has a purple fringing on the front of the front of the focal plane, and a greenish hue on the back of the focal plane. So they kind of clash sometimes. You might be able to see it sometimes, not all the time. So it might kind of clash, but I think the results that you're getting is like not super different. It kind of amplifies it, I think. So taste stuff. I kind of quite like it, but very dependent on taste. One important thing though, when you zoom in from like 28 millimeters to 55 millimeters, the chromatic aberration gets a lot. Like I'm gonna add bloom to this chromatic aberration 0.2. It blooms a lot, like kind of like a very strong, and it's very fast, and there's a lot of blooming and chromatic aberration happening at 55 millimeters, to a point where I would say, unless you're going for a very stylized look, for me it would be an unusable look. But again, depends on the situation. It could be a stylized look that would be fitting for a look, for something like that, so that might be it. But again, I'm talking a lot, you know what I mean. Flares are so beautiful, like I mean so beautiful. I've praised Nanomorph's flares a lot in the past videos. I've praised the wide angle adapter's flares a lot in the past videos. And when you put them together, oh my god, like really great, really great. It just shines. One thing that's kind of a problem is the fact that this flares very easily, because it's like the field of view is so wide. It is so easy to flare this adapter. So you might be getting a bit more of flares. So sun hood might be necessary, a matte box might be necessary. But you know, the flare quality is, it's really good. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful. So Distortion is the reason why I fell in love with the wide angle adapter, and why I used it so often, and why I still use it so often in projects, because of that beautiful, beautiful barrel distortion that is reminiscent of anamorphic barrel distortion. Not quite the same, but reminiscent. Again, a point where we have to say has a lot to do with the lens. Nanomorph has a 28 millimeters, very little pincushion distortion that gets cropped by the time you're at 2:4 to 1 or 2 to 1. At 55 millimeters, you are getting a quite strong pincushion distortion, and even if you crop it to like 2 to 1, there is still some pincushion that you can see, which I don't find a problem. I'm more of a barrel distortion kind of guy, but a quite tasty pincushion distortion it's not something that I despise. I quite like that. So the Nanomorph has that, and I'm fine with that. But when you put this on, my God, like you're getting really good, like really tasty barrel distortion. But it is not without problems, I'm gonna say to you, because again, if you use it at 28 millimeters, I do think for my taste, at sometimes it might be just a tad too much fisheye like and not very much anamorphic like, but it's a fisheye wide angle adapter, so I wouldn't count that as a problem, but something to note still. So I would rather push into like 40 millimeter ish, 37 to 43 millimeter range, but then I'm getting too soft of a result. So yeah, kind of a you know, you have to be careful about what you want there. But just like pure, without thinking about sharpness, without thinking about chromatic aberration or blooming stuff, so beautiful distortion. It's enough to make me cry. It's really, really beautiful. Really beautiful. Ah, it's so beautiful. Oh my God. Okay, other point. One other thing that I want to touch on is bokeh, really, because even if you put this on a spherical lens, on the edges, the bokeh swirls. Like the Tamron 17 to 70, the bokeh starts to swirl and kind of start to look like anamorphic bokeh, like oval bokeh, because it swirls so much around the edges that the spherical bokeh becomes oval. I'm not saying the same, you know, just as an example. So when you put this on an anamorphic lens, the edge bokeh gets swirled too. So it swirls around the edges, which is beautiful, really beautiful. And some bokeh gets squished and starts to get cut off, which I found, normally I would have said I don't think it's pretty cool, but in this scenario, I kind of really like that. This really gets me to that point, which I'm quite happy with. I really like that. As my final thoughts, I'm kind of split on this. I want to say split. Okay, I think that I'm gonna rephrase that. I like it on a project basis because I think there would be projects that I could use this look, but then you would also think like, why wouldn't you rent a barrel distorted anamorphic, like a classic Panavision C style anamorphic, maybe like Blazer Remus, and why would you use this with an anamorph lens? I guess that's a good question too. Yeah, so that's the problem, right? Like that's the problem that I'm trying to solve, like, because it's a cool experiment, but I also want to know, how can this serve me? What purpose can this serve? What kind of story can it help me to tell? But I guess maybe the right project has to come for you to understand if it's really worth doing that or just finding another tool. But I guess it's also kind of like, you just try, test stuff out, and then you learn stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's a different look. It's a look that I kind of like, but I kind of don't like at the same time. But I mean, I like the look. It's just too soft for me, so it doesn't work. So I don't know where it fits, but it's a good look. It was a fun experiment to do because, fun fact, I couldn't find my, did I say it on the intro already? I don't know, but I couldn't find my step up, step down rings for like the past, I've had this like lens for 2 months, which I have to send it back in like 4 days. And I couldn't find it until like last Tuesday. So like 4 days ago, I couldn't find it, and I found it, and I just like put it on. I was like, oh my God, I should have found it at first. Like, I should have looked harder. Yeah. It's my long way of saying I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. But I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. It's a weird video, I know, but that's the sitch. Yeah. And yeah, I wrote, but I don't get to keep the nanomorph lens, unfortunately, if you were waiting for that answer. Okay, as always, the outro is way too long because I talk way too much, but hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever, those stuff always help. And thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.